Sarada Uchiha was really out here speed running eye damage like she got a Black Friday coupon on blindness, and nobody in our household thought maybe, just maybe, somebody should sit her down for a 5-minute TED talk. Sasuke really looked at the family curse that ruined half his bloodline and said, she'll figure it out someday naturally, she's got this. Then Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter 34 changed everything because Sakura finally said, oh, by the way, sweetheart, basically your eyeballs, they are on fire. The Uchiha family communication strategy continues to be held together with trauma and vibes and people dramatically staring out of windows. Join me in today's newest Naruto Explained video where we tackle this very tricky subject. And reminder, the chapter drops on the 20th this month on Manga Plus, which is free to read, and we are on spoiler watch. So when full chapter leaks drop, I'll bring you the full video covering the leaks, and the review may be out on the day of the official release or a couple of days after, depending on when we get the full leaks and how much time the editor needs for the review. The one thing about Sakura finally warning Sarada in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter 34 is that it completely changes how you as a reader should look at Sarada's recent actions, which, to be clear, I am not dumping on the character of Sarada here, I am not dumping on her parents. Up until this moment, Sarada has been fighting like someone who understood the physical strain of using Sharingan, etc., but not the horrifying long-term consequences tied specifically to the Mangekyo Sharingan. She knew overuse hurt. The moment she got the woozy eyes after her first battle with Mamushi, that became clear. She knew there was a backlash. What she clearly did not understand was that at the finish line waiting for her, if she kept pushing herself this hard, was permanent darkness. She rushed forward out of sheer ignorance. And honestly, from a parental perspective, Sasuke and Sakura's decision to not tell her about the Mangekyo Sharingan, it makes complete sense, strictly from a parental perspective. So to fully understand this, we have to place the dramatic irony on the shelf like its name is Metal Lee and pretend that it doesn't exist because pecking order matters. This is actually where things get very tragically realistic when you humanize these characters, because parents in real life, they do this all the time. Parents who have suffered through horrific childhoods usually try to shield their children from the ugliness that they experience. Like, again, to get personal for a second, when I have kids of my own, I will not drink, and preferably I won't have a spouse that drinks, because I grew up in a household where my grandma was a severe alcoholic and there were guns in the house. I don't want that for my kid. What you go through severely shapes how you raise your children, for better or for worse. Sasuke grew up during one of the darkest periods in shinobi history when you think about it. Child soldiers, they were completely normal. Was it on the level what you saw in the Warring States era? No, but there was a lot of dark stuff in Sasuke's formative years up to the point of the end of the Fourth Ninja War. Clan politics, they were deadly. His own brother Itachi lost it when someone told him, hey man, it's time for you to finish the story. And Itachi said, good God, not this nonsense again. And he became a visionary and a revolutionary who chopped up the Uchiha clan without any hesitation, like he was a deadly viper hearing voices in his head that talk to him and that they understand. Hidden villages operated in constant tension and paranoia. Uchiha Massacre destroyed his entire life before Sasuke was even old enough to emotionally process it, and good God, do we see how emotionally damaged it left Sasuke. Every major turning point in Sasuke's life involved pain that was connected directly to the Sharingan when you think about the journey through the series that Sasuke had and you look at it very closely. The Sharingan was never presented to Sasuke like a blessing. It was framed, to a degree in my opinion, as both a gift as well as a curse that was disguised as power. With the Mangekyo Sharingan, that thing is basically the ninja equivalent of downloading malware directly into your soul. To say that there's going to be problems, you're going to end up like that boy Cass in season 7 of Supernatural. If you get that reference, I love you. If you don't, you should definitely check out Peak. Every single major Uchiha associated with the Mangekyo Sharingan ended up being emotionally broken to a degree. Itachi awakened his through the trauma. Sasuke awakened his through the trauma of having found out what really happened to Itachi. Obito awakened his through the trauma of, well, you guessed it, Rin going bye-bye. Madara took it a step further when it came to Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. If we look at the events that Itachi told Sasuke, Madara literally ripped Izuna's eyeballs out like they were trading Pokemon cards at recess because blindness was inevitable. Again, that's only according to Itachi's fabrication of a story and not the real story. Want to clarify that because somebody's probably going, what are you talking about? Go back to Naruto volume 42 and 43 and read the Battle of Fated Brothers arc all over again. Those first 2 volumes in that arc, that's what I'm referring to. So the entire history of the Mangekyo Sharingan and just the Sharingan in general, it has been generally soaked in a lot of grief and obsession and bloodshed. I've always said it in some of the older video essays here on the channel. When you look at the Sharingan, the fact that those eyes are red, some people associate that with love. I associate the Sharingan being red with the fact that that's a clan that has shed a lot of bloodshed. Therefore, it makes sense that their eyes reflect the color of blood, because love and death are both things that can be associated with the color red because of blood. So I want you to imagine being Sasuke for a second. You finally survive all of that. You are in your 30s now. You got a daughter. She's a shinobi. Naruto has dragged the world into peace. He has slammed a few Rasengans into that thick skull of yours to make you finally see the light. And he's the reason you even have a wife and a daughter. The villages, they're allied. Kids, they're no longer growing up in non-stop war zone. Scientific ninja tools, those things exist. Being a shinobi is literally optional now. Boruto's generation grew up in a very peaceful time. They were eating hamburgers or playing card games. They weren't thinking about preparing for international ninja warfare at the age of 5. The training that their parents gave them were literal training games, not hardcore training like we saw with the parents in Naruto's generation. Still intense training. That much is made very clear from Naruto chapter 700. Because Shikadai was trying to get out of the training and so was Inojin. So the parents did train their kids hard, but it came from a different place. The parents now had a lot of time to devote towards just powering their kids up. Whereas before, the parents were training more so because this is survival. I need to make sure you can handle whatever is out there. 2 similar mindsets, and then at the same time, 2 very different mindsets. Depending on which Hokage was in power, kids were getting plucked out of the Ninja Academy and sent onto the battlefield. So, of course, Sasuke and Sakura, they would look at Sarada and think, maybe she won't have to suffer the way that we did. That is completely human. That is part of why I enjoy what we see in Boruto Part 1 and Part 2, because we do get to see the parental side of these characters that we grew up alongside. This is even more so when you look at the fact that for most of Sarada's childhood, Naruto and Sasuke basically function as the world's nuclear deterrent system. Any major threat that appeared got erased by the 2 demigods before these kids even needed to worry. Momoshiki, that guy was handled. Kinshiki, that guy was handled. Fuse Momoshiki, oh, they handled that guy like lightweight without even being at full power. Jigen, well, they did get their ass whooped, but hey, at the very least, they managed to push the guy, which is more so because he was playing around, but we'll just put an asterisk by that one. Ishiki, well, they nearly handled that, and it came at the cost of Naruto losing Kurama, though with some good old-fashioned teamwork, it eventually got handled. Sasuke losing his Rinnegan after the battle, that happened, sure, but even then, you had Boruto realizing, I need to grow stronger now that my dad's lost Kurama, and Sarada realized the same thing when she realized her father lost the Rinnegan. That's why chapter 58 of Boruto Part 1 is so important. For the majority of their lives, the adults, they carried the burden. So from Sasuke's perspective, why would I want to traumatize Sarada with stories about blindness and stolen eyes and clan madness if she never needed to walk that path, if she was never supposed to walk that path? Why would I tell her at the very start of her ninja career, when even Sasuke's own father shut that down when Sasuke was asking questions? Albeit Sasuke was younger, but Fugaku didn't even have that conversation with Itachi when he was Sarada's age. Itachi, outside of the anime, Itachi did not learn about Mangekyo Sharingan's existence until Shisui explained it to him how the Mangekyo Sharingan works. In the Itachi Shinden story of Midnight, when they came up with the plan to stop Fugaku and Shisui explained how he got the Mangekyo Sharingan, Sakura probably agreed with Sasuke. People forget that Sakura witnessed firsthand the Mangekyo Sharingan, what it did to Sasuke mentally, what it did to him physically, and just what that cursed blood of the Uchiha clan did to her husband for so many years. Standing around like a madman one minute saying, "I'm gonna burn down Konoha," then the next minute saying all these squares make a circle. She saw the hatred consume him after Itachi's death. She saw how revenge twisted him. She saw how he descended so far into darkness that he literally tried to kill her multiple times. Sakura understands better than almost anyone alive how psychologically corrosive the Uchiha trauma can truly become. It hits even harder when you realize that Sakura, after the Ninja War, literally devoted years studying mental health, working with people who returned from the war with PTSD, setting up those children's mental health clinics and doing outreach in the villages that got destroyed by the Bijudama that were fired off in the war, and the areas that were cleared out to serve as battlegrounds for the Fourth Ninja War, which, reminder, that war was so big it spanned over multiple small and large countries. Parts of the Land of Lightning, so that's where the Hidden Cloud Village is, parts of the Land of Lightning served as a battleground for reference. So there is a honorable side to their silence. It high-key very much humanizes them. They wanted Sarada to grow up as Sarada, not as the next victim of this Uchiha curse, not as a future blind shinobi desperately chasing eternal Mangekyo Sharingan like she's a ninja organ trafficker. They just wanted her to be their daughter, a bright kid with dreams of becoming Hokage in a peaceful era. The problem is that reality does not care about good intentions. That's often how it works in real life. When you think about it, peace in Boruto is basically held together by duct tape and emotional denial. The second Omnipotence Net Crisis happened, when everyone believed that Naruto was dead, Sarada's life changed forever. Boruto became an enemy to the world. Naruto, her idol, was presumed dead. Her father Sasuke was a rogue ninja again. Boruto was a rogue ninja. Jura and the Shinju, they emerged years later, and suddenly, this peaceful era, that excuse has stopped working. And this is where some of the criticism towards Sasuke and Sakura does become fair, and this is where you do have to put on that dramatic irony cap back on and apply some of the information that we as the audience know that the characters don't, especially when it comes to hindsight. The moment Sarada awakened a fully mature 3-tomo Sharingan, which would have been in the period after the Momoshiki fight and before the Mujina Bandits arc, video will be linked down below if that confuses you, since not everything in the Boruto era was animated. If I forget to put it in the description box, just type in Naruto explained 3-tomo Sharingan Sarada and you will get your answer. There should have been a conversation at some point. Not necessarily the full horrifying Uchiha documentary narrated by a depression and several bottles of alcohol, but at the very least a serious warning. Something, anything. Because a 3-tomo Sharingan, that's not a toy. At that stage, Sarada officially entered the territory where evolution into the Mangekyo Sharingan, it was more likely not going to happen because she clearly had the potential. The risk was real whether or not her parents wanted to acknowledge it. And really and truly, if we're being lore accurate, once she awakened Sharingan, Sarada was always one bad day away from it. I think a lot of people forget that, but we saw it with Obito. You can literally jump from a 2-tomo Sharingan directly into a Mangekyo Sharingan if the trauma you experience is severe enough. And Sasuke especially should have recognized the signs. This man has personally experienced nearly every stage of the Sharingan evolution possible, short of unlocking customer reward loyalties card that he would have gotten from Indra himself being his reincarnation. He knows the emotional triggers. He knows the chakra changes. He knows the danger. He knows what Tobirama talked about, where he said that the chakra does something in the brain to the Uchiha. This makes his silence after Sarada subconsciously awakened Mangekyo Sharingan even harder to defend. I love Sasuke, but that is a fact. Because remember, Sarada didn't even fully understand what was going on. She didn't even know that she had the Mangekyo Sharingan. Her activation was emotional and instinctive. The Mangekyo Sharingan, the eyes reflect the heart, showed Sasuke like, oh my god, my daughter's telling the truth. I gotta save Boruto. She wasn't sitting there in an Uchiha clan history book going, ah yes, according to the ancient lore, my ocular powers have now reached the stage of 4. That is not what happened. That is something I do think sometimes fans do forget. Sarada awakened through her desperation over Boruto's fate, her own helplessness, and hearing that her idol Naruto was dead. That's a lot of compounding trauma. Sasuke already absolutely knew what that meant. At a bare minimum, before he left off to Boruto, he should have explained to her like, hey Sarada, your eyes evolved into something dangerous. It's called the Mangekyo Sharingan. Using those things recklessly could cost you your eyesight. Do not use Mangekyo unless it is a last resort. That conversation matters because information changes behavior. Would Sarada have used her Mangekyo Sharingan more sparingly if she knew that blindness was waiting for her at the end of the road? Possibly, at least somewhat. But again, it is important to note that Sarada has a lot of characteristics that her father has, especially manga Sarada. She inherited the same battle mentality her father has. Sarada does not play around and fight. Once she locks in, she immediately tries to end the situation as fast and as violently as possible. Sasuke at 15 and 16 and 17 was out here pulling up with the Chidori screaming, black flames, and enough emotional instability to make therapists quit their jobs on sight. Like when Sasuke saw Obito was on the ground, he tried to kill him until he got stopped. When Sasuke saw that Madara was on the ground, he tried to kill him until Hagoromo said, fam, sit your ass down. Sarada has that same instinctive aggression once danger appears. She does not hesitate when she sees an opening. So there is a hilarious possibility that even if Sasuke warned her, Sarada would have been spamming Mangekyo abilities because she values protecting people more than she values herself. And that honestly makes this whole thing sadder because Sarada's self-sacrificial tendencies that you could argue exist there beneath the surface, they mirror the exact same traits that doomed previous Uchiha. Itachi doomed himself for peace. Obito doomed himself because of Rin and the shinobi system. Sasuke, well, we know what revenge did to him. Sarada may have ended up trying to destroy herself to save everyone. We just saw it happen in this arc that's taking place now. That's the real tragedy. Sakura and Sasuke, they tried to protect Sarada from the curse of the Uchiha that they accidentally ended up recreating one of the oldest patterns, one of the deadliest patterns known to man, silence. The Uchiha clan has always been terrible at openly discussing emotional pain. Problems get buried, trauma gets internalized, people suffer alone until things explode catastrophically. Fugaku barely communicated emotionally with Sasuke and he paid for it. Itachi hid the truth from Sasuke, he paid for it. Sasuke spent years emotionally isolated from everyone, he paid for it. When you really think about it, the Uchiha, at least in modern day times, they are a masterclass at maybe therapy would have helped, but hey, I got these shiny red eyes, dude. I'm just gonna do my own thing. And now Sarada, she's inherited that same cycle unintentionally. What makes what we saw in the preview for chapter 34 hit so hard is that Sakura's warning comes after the damage had already started. That's not preventative anymore, that's reactive. Sarada has already pushed herself repeatedly. Her eyesight is already being threatened. The conversation happened too late. At least it happened. Granted, it happened understandably late, lovingly late, tragically late, and the timing matters because Sarada's current enemies are not opponents that she can afford to fight half-heartedly. You got Hidari, you got Jura. Sarada cannot simply stop using her strongest powers. She's gonna need them. The narrative has boxed her into a very cruel position where she now fully understands the cost, and she's gonna have no cost and no choice but to use that power. That's what makes the situation so painful from both sides. Sasuke and Sakura, they're not negligent parents. I want to make that clear. They were traumatized parents who tried to give their daughter the childhood they never had. They might have taken for granted the peace that they had, and now their daughter's got to live with those consequences of that. They believed the world had changed enough where Sarada could escape that darkness that was attached to Uchiha name. And as a parent, that's something that you do want. You want your children to have a better chance at life than you had. So it makes sense. And for a while, man, they were right. But Boruto's world evolved backwards, especially once Naruto lost Kurama and after Sasuke lost the Rinnegan. When it was believed that Naruto was dead, we saw that peace begin to crack apart. The old shinobi nightmare, it is returning. And by the time that the truth finally caught up to Sarada, she was already standing knee-deep in the same bloody history that her parents desperately wanted her to avoid, stumbling around in that pool of blood that just happens to be hers because she overused the Mangekyou Sharingan. And that honestly feels very much Uchiha. This clan does specialize in learning life lessons at the absolute worst possible moment imaginable. It's unrivaled by anything other than your ability to click here on the left to check out this Sarada Uchiha video essay, or clicking here on the right to check out this video that YouTube says you would definitely like from my channel.